Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. It is a Taco Tuesday here, and we cannot, talk tacos without talking about that. Number one, we haven't had any, and secondly, the officiating so far here in the SEC. As you see, some controversial calls still looming over that Auburn, Georgia game. We'll talk about both that and the lack of offense for the Auburn Tigers as they head into another big SEC game. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. And Patrick, let's just talk, big picture here about what we're seeing in and around the conference. We saw already earlier this season, Auburn played at Oklahoma. The SEC had to go back and say, hey, look, some of these calls were not called either correctly or should have been either reviewed and did not get called right there on the field. What do you make of Auburn's, I guess, you want to say on the short end of the stick,
right?
There were some things that they could have done on the back end of that. However, now it just seems to be a theme that, when there is a bad call, a bad, I would say side from the officiating standpoint, it seems to go against the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be that guy that is like, oh, if it weren't for the officials, we had to play Georgia and the officials.
Right,
but
right.
The fact that a couple of calls haven't gone your way twice now. When you made a good point going back to the Oklahoma game and the deceiving a guy on the sidelines and he just runs in for a touchdown. That was obviously stated in the offseason about how, hey, that's not legal.
Right.
And the SEC, as you mentioned, released a statement. And then you have this game where we'll get into the fumble in a minute, which honestly, that goal line fumble was one of the craziest calls I've honestly ever seen in any sport.
Yeah.
But just the fact that just 3 weeks earlier, you had the Oklahoma game, and then you have the goal line fumble and the no timeout taken by Kirby Smart, which I thought that also, I was like, man, what is going on here?
That was absolutely insane. And for those that did not see it, there was a time in the second half when Kirby is clearly doing this, and clearly,
he could say all he wants that he's like, no, I'm clapping. No.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch it, and we can't show it on here,
right.
But if you go back and watch it, he clearly is like this, running towards the official. First of all, if an official sees a head coach running towards them,
right,
the first thing they're going to think of is, they're going to call a timeout because the play clock was running out anyways.
Right. 99 times out of 100, you're thinking he's calling a timeout, or he's calling to yell. But in that situation, like you said, because the play clock was running out, there was only one thing to assume, that he's calling the timeout.
I mean, why else would a head coach run over to you as an official when there's 1 second left on the play clock and running over to you with his hands like this? He can say all he wants that he went like this.
Right.
If you're going to say, hey, they're clapping, why don't you just get their attention first and then say, hey, they're clapping, rather than just run over like this?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing was just so strange to me.
Very bizarre. Very bizarre.
And I mean, you can make the argument that it didn't really matter because they ended up not using that timeout anyways. But it's still, it's a mental barrier that you have to get over. Just the fact that, hey, I mean, you're already playing a tough game, you're in a rivalry game, and now you've got to deal with this too.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the fumble, and I think that was probably, if you're an Auburn fan, that was the most egregious, because that, number one, that looked like a touchdown in real time, number one, and then on the replay it did as well, and it was called a fumble.
You could see it right here. He still has control of it, and it doesn't it's not hard to look straight down and see that he's crossed the plane.
Yeah, and this was the one that was the most bizarre to me, because obviously people talk about technology and sports and technology and how it slows the game down. To me, this is the reason why you have it, to get this stuff like this right.
Yes,
and you had the technology to get it right.
You look at the MLB; they've got the automatic balls and strikes system coming in next year.
Right.
We're becoming so AI and computer centered in sports. How do we not have an AI computer generated model?
Yeah.
Like the Premier League has it for offsides.
Right.
And tennis has it for in and out.
Yes.
How do we not have this for college football? I'm shocked.
I have no idea how at this point we still haven't had it's a simple fix, as easy as a chip inside the football, and literally you could tell exactly where it is. You could find out the exact place where the ball comes loose, because There'll be information that spits out of where the ball comes loose. Then you can tell if he's crossed the line of scrimmage, or across the line to gain, whether it's first down or in this case as a touchdown. But no, you're right, and I think that it kind of what I think really stinks for Auburn is because it's now 2 games in a row where we're not necessarily talking about the game. We're talking about the officiating, and this is what the SEC and this is what all leagues do not want. The best officiated games are the ones that you don't even notice the referee.
Exactly.
Those are the ones that always come out, in my opinion, as the best thing. But no, but if you're Auburn, and I will say, like, because people will be yelling about fans and whatnot, I will say yes, it's not lost on me the fact that after that missed field goal, missed field goal, it remained a 13-10 game. So Georgia misses the field goal, remains a 13-10 game. After that, Auburn 3 plays, 4 yards, a minute, punt. After that, 9 plays, 25 yards, 1 minute, turnover on downs. So in total, 12 plays, under 30 yards, held the ball for 2 minutes, 6 seconds, and you got nothing. So yes, and that just extends what happened earlier in the second half, because Auburn's second half possessions, turnover on downs, punt, turnover on downs. That was your possessions in the second half. And so, yes, while I do, I do agree with it, and I'm like you, I'm not a blame the officials guy. It stinks when that is what the momentum is going into halftime, and it felt like Auburn carried that momentum of the fumble into the second half.
And that's what proves to me that Auburn is a good football team, not a great football team.
Yeah.
Because the great football teams are able to overcome these obstacles. I mean, yes, if the Arnold fumble was a touchdown, they'd go up, 17-0?
Right. Yes.
Presumably into the halftime.
Yeah.
But the fact that whole debacle happened, and then you basically lay an egg in the second half and do nothing means it tells me is like, okay, you're still thinking about this, and they got in your head.
Yeah.
And once they get in your head, it's over.
Yeah.
It really is.
Especially for a team like Georgia, who already came in with an 8-game winning streak over Auburn. It felt like it was already in their head, and it seemed like that exasperated it. We got a chance to hear from head coach Hugh Freeze on that football game. Another loss for Auburn as they search for a win in the SEC.
When I talked in the post game, the film was accurate with what I said, and we find ways to put ourselves in position to lose games and not finding ways to win games, and it's no more telling than this game. The same calls that were executed beautifully in the first half are some of the same calls that against the same looks that did not get executed in those game-defining critical moments. And it's really hard to understand and put your finger on it, but that's what we have to do as coaches, is to figure out, how to help our kids believe. I think one of the most telling stats of the whole game, defensively, we were dominant, stopped the rushing game. We're really good on first down. That got us in some third and longs, and had our season low in MAs, 23, which is really, really good for an entire football game.
Good stuff there. And we also got a chance to hear from Kirby Smart on that controversial timeout clap situation.
Yeah, they're clapping. So I told them before the game, if these guys clap, it's a penalty. They can't clap because it will false snap. I've lost games on that before in the stadium. And I told them, I said, if they clap, I'm going to tell you. I got somebody in the box watching every play. They were clapping. So I ran over to him and said, they're clapping. They're clapping. And he thought I called timeout. And so I wanted to make sure he understood it. Go lip read, because I'm screaming, they're clapping, they're clapping. I didn't need a timeout because we were going to get it off before the shot clock. It was 2-1, and we were going to get it off before the play clock ended, and I didn't need a timeout. It was the fact that they were clapping. I wanted them to call it because it's a penalty.
All I'm going to say is he sounds like, I'm going to make a weird analogy here. He sounds like a husband in trouble with his wife.
Okay,
it sounds like he thought about that. He knew he was going to be asked about this. So let me pose this scenario. You forget to do the dishes when you come home.
Right.
and you're on your way home from work, and you're like, man, I forgot to do the dishes. And I know my wife's going to grill me for this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to script what I'm going to say in my head. And just the way he answered that question just made it seem so much like he knew exactly what he was going to say. He knew he was going to be asked about this.
And he needed something believable.
Yes.
To hold on to.
It's just the way he came off to me.
Right.
It's like, they're clapping. They're clapping.
And that part to me, I agree with you. I think that's actually a perfect parallel, because to me it's like it would be different if he did not use the hand gesture. If the hand gesture wasn't as clear as day, then I could possibly believe that he's talking about that. And there he is afterwards trying to explain.
Clapping.
Clapping. That's what they're doing. Either way, Georgia gets the win on the Plains, 20-10. Auburn is still looking for their first SEC win of the season. I'm sure that will be a talking point as we move forward, both with the Auburn Tigers and with Georgia, who's now back on the right track there in the SEC.